Hi, this is Mary Allenbaugh, and this is my post for the Module 5 discussion in SPED757. I think what led New Jersey to recognize the benefits of inclusive education was because of the advocacy group that was formed, and because in the video, the lady who was the advocacy group for New Jersey was talking about how the inclusive education in New Jersey was the worst, and they were still living in the 30s, and that they were advocating for this inclusive education. They were saying, read the literature, like, wake up, New Jersey, it's time that we move on. And they were trying to get them to change, and trying to recognize the benefits of having inclusive education. I think the stories that I really enjoyed with the three stories from the presentation, especially with the inclusive versus segregated education. They talked about the beginning of Chris and how he stayed with 5 students the entire day and he never really got out. And all these students were nonverbal. And he would go to school with them, with these 5 people. He would go to speech therapy with these 5 students who were nonverbal. And so he wasn't really getting anything from his peers. And so now that he is in inclusive education, he's much more independent, is what the mom of Chris said. And then the other one was Todd Smith. He was the teacher, and he was talking about how his sister was born with Down syndrome, and that the mom believed in education or inclusive education, and she strived for her daughter to be able to be with her same aged peers all the way through school. And he went on to say how she had graduated high school with all the ribbons and accolades, and she has now held a job for 16 years. And then finally, there was a story about Arthur and how at first, his parents put him in ABA therapy, and then, all they focused on was the negative of, what Arthur couldn't do and not what he could do. And so it was it didn't really help Arthur grow as a person. And so then, with the inclusive education, Arthur, the dad talked about how the 8th grade class was reading a book about Hercules. Well, Arthur couldn't read the same book because that's not what his level was. And so the teacher gave him a different book, which was the same topic of information. It was about Hercules. And then after both the students and Arthur read the book about Hercules, they were able to come together and have a conversation about it because they had both read the same topic of information. And I think that is so cool to be able to do. I believe that inclusive education is a civil rights issue because it's those kids with disabilities that are fighting for their right to be in the classroom with their same age peers. It's just like back then, whenever there was segregation and the blacks wanted to be in the schools, like, equally. Everybody wants it to be equal. Um, and so, and it even said that in the video. It was like, well, yeah, I see the perks of, my kid being the only or being in an all disabled environment. But I also see, like, I guess take a step back and I think, okay, well, back when I was in school, like, those kids were down the hallway and they were isolated from everyone else. And that wasn't okay. And so I believe it's a civil rights issue because they have a right to a good education. They have a right to an education with their peers. And with research, it's obviously beneficial for everyone because, reflecting on this video, and how I would want to be a leader and how I plan on going forward is making sure that everyone is included and everybody grows in empathy from this diversity, because you have to be aware of how you're being perceived from other people. Um, and I just think that the being a middle school ELA teacher, being or reading or listening about Arthur and reading or listening about Arthur reading the different book but on the same topic, I think that was absolutely beautiful. And I really want to incorporate that into my classroom. Thank you.